So I wanted to talk about some of the strategy that is involved in media consulting as businesses bring people like you on. So, first of all, can you briefly describe what it is that you do for businesses?
Yeah. So I would say the simplified version is helping them connect with people who want to buy their services. All that goes into that is a lot of first the research. So understanding what has been working. So whether they are doing print ads, if they're doing any SEO, like really understanding where their marketing is at prior to getting into making content. And then from that, it's, doing the research. So are we looking at, a geographical location? Is it a online only business? Understanding the price points, what their audience might like. And then we're going to look more into like what their competitors are doing. And competition isn't a scary word. It should be really understanding what are the people that they want to be selling to already saying in the comments of these other creators, and really helping the team and the business owner kind of understand, like, here's the conversations happening now. So what a lot of times happens is that, we all have hypothesis about our businesses that we think like, hey, people are going to want this. When in fact, when you do the research, you can kind of see that people want this, but they want something a little deeper, or they want something a little more custom that honestly, us as service providers, we may not have thought of. And I, for example, working with a private chef, there are times where, you probably want to come home and have food just ready, and somebody else had to cook that. Now, wouldn't it be nice if all of us could just have a private chef at home who just has food ready for us? And you have to think, well, when would I purchase that? Like, when would I need someone to come to the house and cook meals if I'm maybe too busy, or if I have guests in town? There's different times where the need increases on a purchase versus like there's times where it's a nice to have. Now, of course, bringing people together and cooking is always a great experience. It could be celebrating a memory. It could be just sitting down for family dinner. But there's an increase for a need for it to be, I guess, more special in a way. So how does a business owner convey what that special experience is? Well, that's where the storytelling comes in. It's understanding what's something that would be a search intent. So now you're getting into like the SEO, you're getting into keywords. And then you're also talking more about like the story. Like, what was a moment where you had a very memorable dinner? Or what was a moment where you went to a great restaurant and had an amazing experience? And now imagine that happening in the home. So it's like, that's when the whole visual storytelling comes in. So as a creative consultant and being able to produce this, we have to work with like what we got, which oftentimes is an iPhone, a light, a few hours with the owner. And it's being able to see enough patterns online on what makes a good script and a good video, and be able to produce that on any budget scale. So some people might come in and they'll do the investment where they hire the videographer, they have the whole production shoot. Others just want to feel comfortable being in front of the camera on their iPhone and tell their story, and maybe cut a few clips from their iPhone from previous events and be able to put it together. So being able to have that range of being able to spot those patterns on like, hey, we've got enough stuff to make this, content work. That's where just years of being like online studying and looking at like, how did, meal prep services grow from just word of mouth to now full blown dinner parties and like communities of people. Even reading like about the early days of like Nike, or reading about early days of Uber. Like those are all like, how did just like a city grasp this new idea, and then everybody is now doing this? And you can think of a lot of things that we probably didn't have 3 years ago that now are just like totally normal. Like we all just do this. We all have it. And that's the effect that you want, a business or a service to have on either content or like people's buying habits, or just become somebody in the community locally that people look for and that they tell their friends about. So being able to work with people to help them develop that either skill or the aesthetic that they're going for, or just being consistent with online. That's a lot of what I really bring and help people with.
So let's talk about the consistency online aspect. One of the questions that we got a lot of was like, how often do I have to post on my social medias? Every week, every month, every day? Like, what is it? And when I was doing my research way back when, there wasn't a firm answer. The one thing that became very apparent was that you can't post more than 3 times a day.
True.
Because at that point, then these algorithms are going, okay, something's going on here. So, from your professional experience, what is the ideal goal for a business that wants to grow their brand?
Well, I think if you've been online for a while, you kind of know how much you want to be posting. If you're just getting started, I would say definitely post that 3 times per day. Now, the reason why I'm saying post 3 times is that, one, you want people who are going to stop following you to fall off. You just want them to unfollow. So then you get to the real core of your base of people. And then once you kind of have that little, like, you know, fluctuating number, like, oh, I just lost a bunch of followers, don't mind it. And then you get into making the real content, because the first 100 videos are going to be trash. Let's just everybody just come to that humble conclusion that the first 100 videos, they're going to be a little rocky. One might take off and they'll keep you going, but the first 100 are really kind of like your first, like, 100 yards, you know, because it's a marathon making content. And then once you get past that, I think at that point, people really start to see, like, okay, I'm getting a hang of this, or they start getting better on camera, or that fear of, like, oh, what is everybody going to think? It just goes away. It just numbs out at that point. And I think that's kind of the sweet spot when the whole team is like, all right, we're going to make content. We now know what we're not going to do. And that is when you really start to grow your account and start to really understand social media, because you've been on it long enough. You're making jokes in the comment. You're getting trolled. You're getting people to, like, you know, you're online. And I think at that point, that's when you really start to make it fun. And that's the whole point. Social media is about having fun. And of course, there's business involved with it. But if you're not having fun with it, it's okay not to do social media. It really is. And there are still a lot of successful businesses who are not online. So, I mean, I don't think that's the thing that's going to make or break a business. I think if you want to be online, you got to play the game. If it's something that you're not really interested in, it's okay. It's okay to have, like, I would say at least 7 solid YouTube videos. Now, the reason why I'm saying 7 is that you're probably going to have the frequently asked questions that people have, plus maybe 2 others that are just, like, about you, about the business, about where you are. Like, I think that's, like, really important to have a YouTube video, because that's going to be something, if somebody sits there and watches all 7 of those videos, I think they're going to have a higher chance of buying from you. Versus if somebody watches a 7-second video, it's like, how much do you think that's going to, you know, make an impact on, like, people buying? And I guess to answer the question of, like, how much content should you put out there, think of it this way. If you sit down and watch a 3-hour movie, Lord of the Rings, the whole Harry Potter 7 series, how much have you talked about that with other friends? I'm like, wow, that is an amazing movie. I love this series. It's such a great film. Why? Because you just spent hours watching and consuming this. Versus, I couldn't tell you probably the reel that I saw this morning for breakfast, you know? So it's like the amount of content you need to put out there, think of it as your Hollywood movie. You need to put out at least 2 hours worth of content, whether it's shorts or long form. 2 hours is a good amount of content to have online, that if somebody were to watch that whole playlist and see you being yourself, trying to make your business work, or you're successful, or you're talking about something that you're really passionate about, I guarantee somebody's going to be like, hey, I just saw how passionate you are. I just thought you were cool. Let's work together. And I think that can work for local business. That can work for professionals trying to build their personal brand, or even just contractors, freelancers trying to figure out where their next pivot is. Use the internet to guide you on things. And that takes a lot of trust to put, you know, your hands in the trolls and the depths of the internet. But I also think that there's a lot of rewards in people, like, you know, giving you the feedback that would either take you years to maybe figure out, or you're just, like, not sure. And yeah, it does feel really cringy, like, talking to yourself on your camera, like, you know, and sharing stories and, like, ideas. But, like, that's what makes us all connected. It's the ideas. It's the fact that you like something that somebody else likes, or maybe you don't like anything else somebody else likes, and that also could be interesting for somebody to ask you questions. But I think that's like really the place to start. It's like, can you put out enough content to get people to ask you questions? That's when you know that you've like made enough content, you know?